Anderson heaving one down the sideline, and he's got Cass Allen over the top. Big side, down the sideline. Touchdown. His signature move and his signature performance. Allen did ball one more time. 58 yards this time.
You're listening to the Bruin Bible. This is your host, Will Decker, bringing you UCLA football content all throughout the year for LA Football Network.
What is good, Bruin Bible listeners? It is your host, Will Decker. We got to get a sponsor in before we start this episode. It's BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines and the latest matchup reports for this year's NBA playoffs. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season, as we have you covered for your insider sports wagering needs. From basketball, Major League Baseball, NHL, hockey, golf, to UFC and boxing, the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your home. Make sure you check out BetOnline. Get into the action today. So head to the website or use your mobile device to join, and be sure to use your promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now to the Bruin Bible. What is up, and welcome to a brand new edition of your Bruin Bible. We got the Madman in the house, a fun one on the hands of your UCLA Bruins. We're talking about the linebacking room. We talked about the D-line last week, brought down some very interesting topics about how we felt UCLA had one of, if not the most underrated defensive line, at least within the Pac-12. I think the linebacking room is, shaping out just exactly kind of like that. Madman, how much effort did you put into prepping for this? And two, how was your weekend, my man? I haven't really talked to you since everything has gone on.
Well, brother, always ready to talk UCLA ball. So the prep happens both directly and indirectly. It happens directly through searching for information, as I know you and I do really well. And then it happens indirectly through just dreaming about it and eating about it and breathing about it and sleeping about it, because that's what we do. We love our Bruins. So always ever ready to talk UCLA football. I'll give you the same line that I give my dentist every time I have to see her. Shout out to Mackenzie here in Westwood. That she's like, she's sort of, the chair leans back and she's like, we may have to do some work on your teeth that may hurt. But what should I put the television on? I said, listen, you as long as you keep it on a sports channel, you can set me on fire and I'll be fine. So, as long as we talk UCLA football, I'm in a great spot. But, brother, it was a great weekend, long weekend, Memorial Day, and a very special one on two fronts. Two very, very special people's birthday. First and foremost, of course, is Will Dirty Chai Decker, my co-host over here. He's 19 years young, ladies. So, just so spry and, so much more of life to go. And so just so thrilled that you got a great opportunity, brother, to celebrate with loved ones, and sounded like it was a great, great weekend. And then, my mom had her birthday on Monday. So we had a great time with the family. So lovely Memorial Day weekend and back into the week. And let's talk the UCLA Bruins.
Yes, sir. Shout out to Mrs. Madni. Happy birthday sending your way. And just 2 years away from the bar for me, myself. So going to be fun. No, just playing. I am not 19 years old. I am in my late 20s. And for Madman's dentist, let's hope he doesn't have one of those Elon Musk flamethrowers, because you may get your wish when it comes to getting the root canal next time you're in there. We broke it down into 4 linebacking groups, Madman. I put a lot of prep work into this. It got me excited. Nothing gets me more excited than talking about our UCLA Bruins. So we've got 4 categories of the, we're going to talk about 8 players in total, 2 players for each category. We are not including Liatu Latu and Carl Jones Jr. as they are edge rushers, Madman. I think they are more defensive linemen, as, 80 to 90% of their snaps, they're rushing the passer. I cannot convince myself that they are linebackers in the traditional sense of the word. But we're going to start with the faces of the group. It just makes too much damn sense, Madman. And the 2 guys, Darius Muwasow and Olufemi Oladejo. Oladejo transferring in, Muwasow, a former transfer himself. Both had over 90 tackles last year, and both were the guys that you watched in spring ball just going, holy hell, they're taking a next step forward. They're doing things that we weren't able to see them do last year. And Mwasow, for as good as a year he had with UCLA last year, second team all Pac-12, had his third season at the D1 level with 90-plus tackles. You went into that spring ball and watched him play, and you're going, he can go up a level. He can even be even better this year in his second year at UCLA. And Oladeja, I mean, you knew how I felt about him when we talked about our spring practices. This guy is massive, 6'3", 250 pounds, can run like a gazelle. And I just think with that talent level, we saw it in spades last year. You know, he had 14 tackles against Notre Dame, 17 against us when we played Cal. That talent level combined with the best linebacking coach around in Ken Norton Jr., I just think he's going to be the best linebacker, not only in the Pac-12, but maybe in the West Coast as a whole, if everything goes right for Oladeja. What do you have to say about these two gentlemen? Because I don't think they're getting enough preseason prep about how good that these linebacking group can be for UCLA.
Well, Will, you set it up so well. And a couple things I'll say right off the bat. How exciting is it to talk UCLA football where we're legitimately talking about 4 groups of individuals at a position level? And so when you sort of zoom out and you talk about depth of talent on this roster, that's really not a conversation we could always have. And certainly not a conversation we've consistently been having the last 5, 10, 15 years. So the mere fact that we're having this opportunity to dialogue and engage 4 deep, 4 couplets deep at a position, first of all, speaks to where this program is going and where the excitement level is and needs to continue to grow. Will, I think these are the 2 guys that when you look at them, as you mentioned in spring ball, they were the 2 guys that were ready to hit people. That spring ball was a formality. It was an obligation. It was kind of a nuisance for them, to have to just sort of play this sort of touch football. I mean, Mwasow hit a guy every chance he got. And, Chip kind of yanked him out of spring ball a couple of times and had him sit on the sideline. And Oladeja also, you could tell, when they sort of made contact with other players, like there was a little extra emphasis there. And when you break these 2 guys down, it really is a situation of the athleticism of Oladeja and then the tactician of Mwasow. And, when you sort of see that complement, you said it best, Will, starting with Mwasow, just tactically an incredible linebacker, nose for the ball, tremendous instincts. You can see the confidence oozing now year 2 in this system with this personnel. And when you talk about kind of making a jump, 3 straight years, 90 plus tackles, but it was his first year in 3 years that he didn't have 100 tackles. So as good as he was, there was an opportunity to even take it further. You made the great comparison several months ago in season where he had those flashes of Manti Te'o when, getting his 2 huge interceptions. And then, of course, just being the tackling machine. So I see him as truly a pillar and anchor of this defense. And then Oladeja is just a specimen, Will. I mean, and, it's remarkable what he's been able to do. I sort of think of Oladeja, when we saw him live, the dimensionality was hard. It was hard to sort of even kind of understand the proportions of this young man. DK Metcalf came to practice a number of times, and watching the 2 of them kind of just stand close to each other, you sort of got an understanding like, oh my God, this guy's an absolute freak and a specimen is going to do amazing things. And what I sort of equate Oladeja, you and I obviously NBA guys, he sort of reminds me of young LeBron in Cleveland, right? Just that physical freak who can just do a little bit of everything. You can see him get into the box and get it behind the line of scrimmage, sack quarterbacks, stuff running backs. You can see him cover tight ends. You can even see him covering slot receivers. I mean, there's just a ranginess to him where he can kind of do it all. And I look at him going from Cal to UCLA as Cal kind of being that Cleveland Cavaliers team of the 2000s with, Paul Silas as coach and Mike Brown as coach, where not really that structure. And it was just kind of LeBron being athletic. That's kind of what Oladeja was at Cal last year. A bad Cal team, not really good coaching, but the guy found a way to just have exceptional production. Now he goes in under the tutelage of Ken Norton Jr., much in the way LeBron then went from Cleveland to Miami under the tutelage of a Pat Riley, under the tutelage of a Spo, and it really sort of unlocked his game in terms of a greater understanding of the game. You know, LeBron's efficiency went through the roof. He was picking his spots. He sort of mastered the game. And I think that there's an opportunity here for Oladipo to start mastering his position, where not everything needs to be about athleticism, of which he has in spades, but him reading and reacting to offensive formations, player personnel, different packages. And I think when you put him together with Moasau, it's going to be a magical combination. There is an argument, Will, that those two guys, coupled with how you want to categorize and classify a Latu and a Jones, which is a separate conversation, that might be the best position group at UCLA this year. There is an argument to make. As decorated as the quarterback room is, as deep as the running back room is, that's how good these two guys are and how high you and I are both on them.
In terms of depth, I completely agree. I don't remember a room where you can get to maybe your fourth or fifth guy and you're feeling very confident. Don't worry, folks. We're going to get to those in just a couple minutes. But I wanted to bring this question up to you. Are these, maybe at the end of the season, the two best linebackers within the Pac-12? I did a quick Googling, around the conference. We're going to be previewing later in the summer how UCLA's units compare to the rest of the Pac-12. But I know you got a Mason Cobb transferring from Oklahoma State to USC right now. And then you got Kareem Reed from Utah, very stout linebacker out there. You know what you're getting with a Whittingham defense. But I'd make the case, knowing what we know from Moasau, how it was a transition year for him, a learning curve, switching to UCLA, getting off of his native island of Hawaii, and making second team all Pac-12. He's got a level up to go to. We saw in the spring, he was everywhere, sideline to sideline. You could tell how flexible he was in terms of learning the defense and his knowledge among it. And then you have Oladipo, who has all the physical tools in the world, and you're already seeing him call out plays on defense and putting guys in the right positions in spring practice. Long story short, is this the two best linebackers within the conference on paper right now?
Yes, Will, it is. And I think that we can say that very confidently. Obviously, and we'll get into that later in the summer about the position breakdowns. But Oregon's got some guys. They've got a nice package. Washington's got some guys. They've got a nice package. Obviously, you mentioned anyone coached by Whittingham at Utah. They're going to be really well coached. To me, it sort of stacks up a little bit with Moasau and Oladipo at UCLA, and then Cobb and Jamil Muhammad at USC. When you talk about combo. And Muhammad is kind of the athletic guy the way Oladipo is. Cobb is more of that traditional linebacker tackling machine the way Moasau is. If you look on paper or on the field, Moasau is better than Cobb, and Oladipo is better than Jamil Muhammad right now. And so to me, this is no question that with these two guys, and then you pepper in whoever you want linebacker 3 and 4 to be, depending on down, depending on distance, depending on situation. This is the best linebacking group in the Pacific 12 Conference.
And we're going to move to the forgotten ones. This is the second, level of the linebacking group we're talking about. And that comes with two guys. We've seen flashes from both these guys. I thought one took a real big jump last year. One guy hasn't played a snap of football in over 16 months. But is somebody I think UCLA fans should really have on their radar come fall camp to really make a jump, given his pedigree, given where he was, and given what we saw from him in limited action in 2021. Those two guys are John Vaughns and Ali Cahow. Ali Cahow, former 5-star, linebacker from Alabama, transfers to UCLA, limited snaps. He had 3 sacks and 5.5 tackles for a loss. And then you get the likes of a John Vaughns. He was the tone setter, if you will, for UCLA last year. You felt a big hit coming always with John Vaughns in the open field. I thought he progressed as much as anybody on that defense last year in terms of mastering the playbook, getting in and making plays. The biggest threat to Vaughns is, does he leave for baseball? He has been outstanding on the baseball diamond this year in 2023, and the MLB draft is going to be at the end of June. So we don't know what his, kind of future is like. I hope he returns to UCLA to play football. Whereas Cahow, we don't know if he's going to be healthy or not because we just haven't seen him in over a year of action. Talk to me about these two guys because these are the forgotten ones of the bunch. But boy, if we get both of these guys back, that is, I mean, it's the deepest linebacking room we've ever had at UCLA.
No doubt, Will. No doubt. And it's so interesting. And it's kind of a testament, Will, to how much time goes by quickly. But then at the same time, when you look back maybe just a year or 2 years ago, that feels like a decade or 2 decades or a generation in college football. Let's wind the clock back, Will, to late summer, early fall of 2021. That's when you and I met, if you recall. The first time we met was, late August, early September of 2021. I remember the first podcast you and I did. Yeah. I was actually in Denver, in a hotel room, and that's and ironically enough, I might have been wearing this same sweatshirt. So maybe that's more of a sign that I need to go shopping. But that's another story for another day. But you and I met and we talked about kind of the new impact players, and now the transfer portal is something that has become very mainstream. And it's also become just a staple of the Chip Kelly strategy moving forward. But 18 months ago, 20 months ago, that was still a very foreign concept. And in many ways, Ali Cahow was that trailblazer for Chip and UCLA into the transfer portal. Remember, there was so much rave reviews about this kid who's 5-star recruit from Alabama, leaves the great Nick Saban to come to UCLA. The opening game against Hawaii, he blocks the punt. He has a sack. He makes this huge impact. And you're looking at him as the staple of this team, as the anchor, as LB1 really moving forward. And so it was with those hopes and those aspirations that Cahow came on the scene. And now we move forward 18, 20 months, and we're talking about him being potentially linebacker 3, 4, 5, and just kind of a rotational piece. So it speaks to just how quickly time goes by. But at his best, Will, Ali Cahow actually stylistically plays most similar to his coach. If you look at old Ken Norton Jr. tape and how Ken Norton Jr. stood in the box, how he sort of, rubbed off on tight ends and, guys coming across the middle, the nose for the ball, always looking where the running back is. That's kind of Ali Cahow. That same level of physicality, that same level of urgency and intensity that Ken Norton Jr. played with the Niners, with the Cowboys, is what we see out of Ali Cahow. And so if he can stay on the field, that complement, that physical complement to the tactician that is Moasau and the athlete that is Oladijo, the sky is absolutely the limit. And then you couple that, Will, with John Vaughns. I think the best way to describe John Vaughns in 2022 was the old kind of Scott Van Pelt line in ESPN where he's like, he was just messing around and he got a triple-double. It just felt like John Vaughns was just kind of messing around the whole season and, had big sacks, had 40 tackles, had some big interceptions, had that big one against Washington that really kind of set that tone in that game and really gave UCLA the momentum and the biggest win of the year to that point. You could just see that he was sort of relying on his versatility and athleticism, and that overcame so much. So to me, if he comes back a second year and can put that experience and that skill now together with just his natural athletic instincts, the sky is the limit. And the comp for me, Will, with him, obviously long way to go, but stylistically, he reminds me so much of Derwin James with the Chargers and just where the Chargers use Derwin James, how they move him around. He just feels like that queen piece on a chessboard. You can just do a little bit of everything with John Vaughns. He can be your thumper. He's sort of a hybrid linebacker / safety. Exactly. Yeah. And in that thumper. So the two of those guys, if this was 2015, if this was 2005, if this was 2000, we're talking about these two guys as being tier 1 at UCLA. So the fact that they're tier 2, is just a testament to the depth. And these guys are really great players.
Yeah. And, I would say if Cahow was ready to go in spring ball, there's a case that he may have had a jump on the third linebacking spot.
Yeah.
We know Muasa, we know Oladijo are like the top 2 linebackers we have. But when it comes to that third spot, I would say Cahow may have gotten a jump on that. The fact he didn't play, I think, is going to hurt him a little bit. I know he's a 5-star, but look at what John Vaughns did last year. 53 total tackles. You mentioned the Washington interception. He had 2 on the year, once against South Alabama as well. And you nailed it perfectly. He is a hybrid safety linebacker. And, when he is in the right position at the right time, I know he got burned by Jordan Addison in the USC game, but I think it was more of an out of place type thing on that one. But I think with him, it's if he's in the right place at the right time, he's a great coverage guy. I mean, we've seen it with the interceptions and the turnover rate that he possesses. He had the most tied for the most interceptions on the team last year. So John Vaughns, I think, has a real high level to go to. And it's exciting time to have him in our linebacking room. You saw Ken Norton Jr. make maybe the biggest difference with him last year. Hopefully we can get another year out of John Vaughns on the football diamond. The 6 men, this is the kind of the backup unit, but you can still win 6 man of the year. You can still be an elite bench player coming off for UCLA. I got 2 guys for this, man. Kane Medrano and Cho Bryant Strother, 2 guys that have been in the system for a long time, entering their 4th year respectively for UCLA. Medrano, 38 tackles last year. Bryant Strother, 28 himself, I believe. So you have these 2 guys that know the system, know where they're supposed to be. We saw them in spring ball. They looked very competent. Like if it came down to these guys, I would expect them to make a play, coming in and, being a part of this defense and kind of lining up. And just having these experienced vets be the 5th and 6th players in the linebacking unit we're talking about. How many other teams has this luxury? Because I feel like it is just such a gift that we're getting this experience back on the bench for UCLA, Madman.
Absolutely, Will. And I think you said it really well. And what I really love about somebody like Medrano in particular, you talked about the stats, 26 solo tackles, Will. So it's not like he was just a helper and in the right place at the right time. He's finishing these plays last year, with all the other talent that was out on the field. And he also had an interception. So you're talking about the variety in terms of skill set where these guys can kind of come in. Obviously, injuries happen in football every year, every game, every play. We wish our guys nothing but the best, that they stay healthy, but there's a reality that these guys are going to get on the field. And as a result of that, I don't think you feel like you're really having any sort of a significant drop-off. And so I think, to me, in many ways, these, it's the 6th men that sort of are the barometer for how far your program is going. Think about when we sort of zoom out a little bit, Will. Think about these great Alabama teams of the last 10 years. Let's think about the Georgia teams the last 2 years. Look at the depth at linebacker they had and how they were able to just sort of reload and retool at that particular position group. The guys who were drafted, go even further back. Look at those USC teams in the Pete Carroll era with Mauluga and Cushing and Rivers and all of those guys. And look who the backups were and how they kind of came in. Go even further back to, the Miami teams of 2000, 2001, 2002. So in many ways, the barometer of how you stay consistent year over year is how deep you are at the linebacker position in particular, because that's kind of your anchor defensively. And so the fact that we have such competent players in that regard really takes it to the next level. And you want guys, in the words of Bill Belichick, after a certain level in the depth chart, to just do their job. And because you've got the Oladijals and you've got the specialists like Latu and you've got these physical freaks like Carl Jones and John Vaughns, you need guys who are just going to be situationally sound, have gap integrity, know how to wrap up, no missed tackles, no mistakes, no penalties. And this is where you're sort of building that discipline and depth. So I really like where we are with the 6th man.
And just 2 huge human beings, too.
Oh, yeah.
Bryant Struthers, 6'3", 240. He's a sophomore on paper. He redshirted his first year here. And then you got Kane Medrano, who's, 3 years of experience, has been a guy that's flashed. He had that big interception against USC in that ball game. So he's made some big plays when his number has been called. So guys that you just trust in situations because they've been there before. And to have that, as a rotational linebackers at that point, that's just a gift from God. UCLA fans were blessed. And if we weren't blessed enough, we have gone through our first 3 categories, the faces of the linebacker room, the forgotten ones, and the 6 men. We've got some studs on the way, man. Some freaking studs. And you always bring this up when you describe the Warriors. And I am a Warriors fan. Pedigree. We have a lot of pedigree when it came to it. Steph Curry's father played in the NBA. Klay Thompson's father played in the NBA. Draymond Green went to a very credible institution at Michigan State, learned from some of the best. Steve Kerr You know, he played for Phil Jackson and Popovich. I don't know how there's better pedigree as a coach than that guy. This guy was born to be a coach, given that he was playing with those two guys. With these two guys coming in, we got Jalen Woods, who's been on campus for a year, 6'1", 210-pound linebacker, and then Trey Edwards, the 4-star linebacker. And what I love about these guys, outside of them being, you know, very competent players and probably going to be stepping in the limelight as soon as next season, maybe even this season, worst case scenario for UCLA, is that these guys respectively come from arguably the two best institutions of football on the West Coast. Jalen Woods coming from Bosco,
Yep.
and our guy Trey Edwards coming from Mater Dei.
Mater Dei.
These are the programs you want to recruit from. These are the pipelines you want to build. And just having these two guys from those two programs is special. And you look at Jalen Woods, he had offers from Oregon and Miami, chose to come here. Trey Edwards had offers from just about, you know, half the SEC, big name programs, your Auburns, your Arkansas, your Texas A&Ms, you name it. USC, he spurned USC to come to UCLA. So, I mean, that just shows you how much Trey Edwards wants to be a Bruin. Talk to me about these two guys, because I feel like we're in good hands even after this, knowing we got Ken Norton Jr. manning the bus and these two guys maybe leading a pipeline to UCLA.
No, absolutely, Will. And I think you said it best about the pipeline and pedigree. And what it reveals is two things. It's, in many ways, this group is, you know, like an online dating platform, right? Where it's, you know, both sides have to swipe right, you know, to be able to make this thing work. And for UCLA to have the appeal, both athletically, academically, coaching, the whole shebang, as you and I have said, is maybe the most unique package in all of college athletics of what this institution is all about, to be able to pull from the two preeminent high school programs in Southern California. But then on the flip side, for UCLA to look in these young men and say, hey, we identify these guys as potentially the linebacking future of our program. And what you're going to get with these two guys is a winning mentality. They're going to come in. They're going to really be ready to learn, to compete, and to have the right attitude. And that's what you want. And it sort of goes back to that old saying. You and I have talked about this a lot, Will. Ryan and the two of us have talked a lot about this, where the good teams, the coaches lead, and the great teams, the players lead. And essentially what you're doing is you're creating a culture of player-led performance and player-centric leadership. And so with these two guys coming from Mater Dei and Bosco, the biggest games, both on television. They've got experience playing on television. They've got experience playing for championships. They've got experience playing against the top competition of their age group. They've got experience in high-pressure situations. They've got experience playing in front of tens of thousands of fans in hostile environments. They've got experience being the hunted. All of these things, you cannot just show up and teach. These are all intangibles. And so these guys are actually starting their careers at second base. They're not starting at home plate. And so now when you couple that with what Ken Norton Jr. brings to the table, you're going to round these guys out where 12 to 18 months from now, these are the stars of your team. They're built to succeed physically, but culturally and mentally, they're also built to succeed. And you know that, look, in a catastrophic situation, in a game environment, potentially even a season environment, you're sort of decimated by injuries in a season, you can throw them in. And yeah, they're going to make a few mistakes here and there because they're young, but they're certainly capable of making all of the plays. And so that's what really excites me of bringing these guys in. And Will, just to close the Warriors analogy, because you know they're run like a venture capital group, to just bring it all the way home. You know the Warriors are really well run when, now former president and GM Bob Myers won a national championship at UCLA on the 95 national championship team. And, oh, by the way, Joe Lacob did his master's degree at UCLA too. So it's a Bruin-led organization, which is why they're so successful.
Yeah, UCLA fans, I know the majority of you guys are Lakers fans, but show some love, man. Lacob and Bob Myers, alumnus of this fine institution. Madman, so much fun as always to break this down with you. One final question. Is this the deepest linebacking unit Is this a top 5 linebacking unit, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in the entire country?
Ooh, wow. Oh man,
In terms of depth.
It's a bold statement, Will, but it's interesting because when you say it, the natural reaction is, whoa, 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 that's a bold statement. But you let it sit for a few seconds, and then you sort of go through the analysis that you and I went through. And the conclusion very quickly is no question west of the Mississippi. And then the conversation then, well, okay, how would they stack up against Ohio State and Michigan and Wisconsin and some of those teams? And then obviously you got the SEC teams. I think if not top 5, it's certainly top 10 in the country. And so I think this is going to set up UCLA for, I think they're going to be in every game with this group. And so now it's going to come down to, like, I'll make a bold statement. UCLA is not going to lose a game by more than 10 points this year. And so now it's going to come down to, okay, it's going to be late game execution on either offense or defense, may come down to a penalty or two, executing your plays, a turnover or two. But this group gives you an opportunity to be competitive in every game. And that's something we couldn't always say. Even the last 2 years, we couldn't always say that. The defense sort of let us down from time to time, not with this group, not with this anchor.
Yeah, and it does sound insane. And I went through all of the different phases. It's like, do we have the experience out there? Yeah, we do. We have 90+ tacklers coming back, not even including Muwasa's 200 tackle seasons back at Hawaii. Do we have the depth? We're as deep as any UCLA linebacking group in the history, at least from what I can remember, in the 2000s.
For sure.
You have the young guys we talked about. You have John Vons. You have the 5-star caliber players in Ali Cahow. You have just a little bit of everything. And then you top that off with the tutelage of Ken Norton Jr. I mean, it's just, when you have the coaching, you have the depth, you have the experience, I don't see how it can't be. So I'm really, really pumped about this UCLA unit. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the LAFB UCLA channel. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the Bruin Bible. Madman and I are on once a week for the rest of the year, I believe. I don't think we're going to slow down on our once a week promise to the listeners here. Any parting thoughts?
Thriller, it's always such a pleasure to do this with you, and just thrilled. And it's not just for the rest of the season. I feel like it's going to be for the rest of eternity that you and I are going to be on once a week for our Bruin faithful. So really excited to be part of this with you as always. And, to all of our fans, thank you for always supporting us. As Will said, like and subscribe on YouTube and all of our channels on social. And until next time, we are the LA Football Network, the Bruin Bible, and Will, my man, is back, the Magic Man. And we are out until next time. Thriller, always a pleasure to do this with you.
Always a pleasure, my man. We will see you guys soon. Take it easy. Is up, Bruin Bible listeners. We have another advertisement for you. We are so lucky to be sponsored by the great people at Athletic Greens. I started taking Athletic Greens specifically because I was lacking energy, lacking focus throughout the day, and needed some special pick-me-up ingredients to make things happen in my life. Athletic Greens has done just that. I've become absolutely addicted to the process. It has over 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients, probiotics, adaptogens to make your life easier by doing this during the day. I like to take it to start my mornings off. I like to do it before a workout. Makes you feel energized, focused, and just have a lot more energy throughout the day than I typically expected. But right now it's the time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/LAFB. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/LAFB to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Athletic Greens, a game changer when it comes to your health and your focus and your mindset.